Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Untapped Open League Legacy Season 7 Finals. I am your host today, Diamond Commando, and I am joined by.
This is GFE.
And we got a very interesting match for you guys. We got Fink XAH Fink 6, the number 2 seed going into our tournament portion on Mono Red Prison versus CFT Sock on Teamer Delver. Now, as we look for both of these players on how they got it to this point, we got CFT Sock starting as the 8th seed going into our tournament portion, winning his first match 3-2 against a Legacy Miracles deck, blue-white Miracles. Then he won against Green Sky Dragon 3-1, who was the 4th seed in a Delver mirror. And as we look at Finkel won 3-1 over Fun Phoenix, and Fun Phoenix was on the Lance deck. And then he won 3-2 over Seuss on Dredge. So both players had a rough time getting here, but they both played it out, did well. And so now we're going to take a quick look at these two deck lists. So we're going to start with Finkel here on the Mono Red Prison deck. Now, for those of you who don't know much about the Mono Red Prison deck, the Mono Red Prison deck is is a prison deck that tries to make your opponent stop playing Magic for a while as it builds up either a lot of goblins using Goblin Legion War Boss, or attempts to burn you out using Chandra Torch of Defiance, Pian Kier Noir, and Fiery Confluence. I've actually played this deck once before in a league, and it's the goal is to get one of its locked pieces out on turn 1, be it a Magus of the Moon, a Blood Moon, an Ensnaring Bridge, a Trinisphere, or a Chalice of the Void, depending on what you want in the matchup. So what do you think of this deck list?
Well, this one is definitely closer to the Grand Prix winning list. It's swapped out the Rabble Masters with Legion War Boss, which is obviously better if it lives a little bit longer. Less damage, but overall spreads your board out more. Went up to 2 P and Kira Noir, which is basically accomplishing the same task, just spreading out bodies. And yeah, it's a pretty stock Mono Red Prison deck.
Yeah, I think the one card that's really showing me some spice in this list is the 2 Karn Scions of Urza. And I actually like them because being someone who's played Mono Red Prison before, there are times when you have a lot of artifacts out from your Chrome Boxes and your Ensnaring Bridges and your Trinispheres. There will be times when you are just building up a bunch of artifacts under a Blood Moon. And once you can use your Fiery Confluence to destroy your Ensnaring Bridge and use the constructs you get from Karn to just get in a bunch of damage.
Yeah, of course. And the GP winning list for one of those 2 cards as well, and watching coverage, you can definitely see that exact sequence happening quite often against players. Also, noticeably, there's no Scab Clan Berserker, like the Pyrostatic Pillar effect in the sideboard. So, not that Fink really needs that much help in the matchup, but those are noticeably missing.
Yeah, now from a little info about Mr. Fink here. So this is like his first league on this deck. He's won Legacy season. He won the Legacy League 2 seasons ago on Eldrazi. He played a very similar matchup in the Swiss. He feels he's ahead on the pre-boarded games because the Chalice on 1 just shuts down like half of his deck, and he's gonna probably side in some spheres to slow him down. And he also thinks Blood Moon is an auto win because of his mana base, and he thinks the Teamer Delver list cannot beat Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah, certainly true. Main deck, Teamer Delver has no real answer once it resolves.
Yeah. he's been playing for quite a while. And then nothing really noticeable for him in his run to the top 8. And he's been wanting to try this list ever since the new Karn was spoiled. Because a turn 2 Karn sounds great. Now this list can actually accomplish a turn 1 Karn Cyanoversa. And the exact magical Christmas land hand for that, which I've seen multiple times in playing this deck, is a red card, a soul land, Chrome Mox, Simian Spirit Guide, Karn. And you can get a 4-drop Planeswalker on your first turn. Now that takes up a lot of resources, and I don't really recommend it.
Yeah, the payoff there is not as great since typically in Legacy you can shut up a lot of decks with early Chrome Moxes, Trinispheres, and Blood Moons.
Yeah, this list wants a turn 1 Blood Moon, or a turn 1 Magus the Moon, or a turn 1 Trinisphere, or a Snaring Bridge. And the reason why you can get a Snaring Bridge out really early and it will do work is because the Snaring Bridge just will lock down most games, and you can get the Snaring Bridge out with like nothing in your hand, no cards in your hand at all, or 1 card. Now moving on to this Temur Delver list. Temur Delver came back into the meta after the mighty Deathrite Shaman ban. And Grixis Delver was kind of shut off a little bit. Grixis Delver is still seeing play, but this Temur list has also been seeing a lot of play. So, what's noticeable about this deck for you?
Looks like the main deck is pretty stock, although there's no Hooting Mandrills, and in the place we're playing more Young Pyromancers, which should, if CFT Sock gets the chance, be much better in this matchup than Hooting Mandrills, just because you can spread out the board and pressure Planeswalkers.
Yeah, Young Pyromancer being able to be able to work under a Chalice of the Void on 1. Noticeably, it's his only threat that doesn't get shut off by Chalice on 1, which is, something that is going to be very, very big in this matchup. As well as he had his Dazes and Force of Wills also don't get shut off by Chalice on 1, but those are the only 12 cards, and the 2 Dismembers, 14 cards out of his deck that doesn't get shut off by Chalice of the Void on 1.
And do we know who's on the play for this match?
Yeah, it would be Fink, because he is the higher seeded one at 2.
Well, that is not good for CFT Sock, but looks like we're basically going to have to keep any hand with a Force of Will.
Yeah.
And pretty much mulligan anything without.
Yeah, Force of Will going to be a big, big thing.
On the play, he's got a little bit more room because he's got Spell Pierces, Spell Snares for a Chalice, and Daze, but being able to draw, pretty much have to keep that Force of Will because it's not likely that Fink is going to keep any hand that doesn't involve a turn 1 Blood Moon effect or Trinisphere or some other super troublesome card.
Yeah, so Sock, some of his notice, he's been playing this deck since the league started. He just picked it up because he thought it looked good. Some notable finishes he's had in the Untap Open League is he won one of our modern leagues on Panza, and he top 8 a couple on decks such as Blue White Taxes and Turbo Fog. He knows the pre-board matchup is going to be rough because half of his cards are instant wins against him, and his deck is designed to cast them on turn 1. He thinks the post-board Abrade is going to make things a whole lot better, and he still thinks it's probably slightly worse. So he knows this matchup is bad for him going in. On his road to top 8, he got lucky in the last few games coming in. And he really just enjoys this tempo of the deck. So yeah. I believe the game is now up. Our players are loading in. We're going to have So I'm ready to get started on this matchup. How about you?
I'm ready. Yeah, it should be pretty quick. We'll definitely see how the games go. We'll find out within the first couple turns how they're gonna end up.
Yeah. So as we're loading on up in here, just just like our vintage finals that we had a couple days ago, we have our higher seeded player on the bottom on the play. Higher seeded player this time being Fink, also known as Hig of the Kill on Untap, with him being the second seeded player, and CFT Sock on the top with the Teamer Delver. And we're going to get these guys started with resolving their mulligans. So I'm excited for this matchup. It's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. So all right, so looking at Fink's hand, he has a turn 1 Chalice on 1, which is what he wants to be seeing here, as well as a Blood Moon to back it up, and a Magus of the Moon, so he's looking to be very good. On the other side, though, Sock has 2 Force of Wills and a Delver.
Yeah, this is pretty much everything you want to have here. We've got an early threat that's going to sneak through a Chalice. Well, the Chalice is going to get forced. We're going to run out of Delver, and we have a Daze on top of it. So,
yeah. Now
this is probably one of the best things we're doing.
Yeah, for now, the only thing is whether or not Finkel decides to go Magus of the Moon or Blood Moon. And the correct play here is obviously go Blood Moon because of removal, but Fink may not see that line. I think he will, though. So yeah, this is everything that we want to be seeing from both of these players' openers. These are sevens that both players are like snap keeping. If CFT draws a second blue card, he basically has this in the bag.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he pitches to his force here. The correct play, knowing hands obviously, is force for force, leaving up your Daze next turn, getting your Delver resolved. But, not knowing that, I mean, I could definitely see force pitching Daze, and that even ultimately might be the correct play, depending on how Fink decides to slow play his Blood Moon effects.
Yeah, for sure. But he has to do something here, because if he doesn't, he will be dead to this Chalice of the Void, because half of his deck is 1 CMC.
Yeah, interestingly, on Sock's turn, after he forces this Chalice, we can either see him play out a Delver or leave it for his force and leave up a Dismember, which if Fink runs out the Magus of the Moon, we can see float a mana, Dismember the Magus, and then we're right back on top of the game.
So pitching force on the Chalice of the Void. So I think it's fine. And he drew a Daze to back up his other Daze. So we got a Delver coming down on turn 1. And this is looking to be... This is very, very in the favor of CFT here.
Yeah, this is going to be great. We're hoping it's and it's a Blood Moon, so we're going to get it all here.
Yep. So we got the Daze here. And then we got a Delver trigger on upkeep.
Of note, because of the sequencing of the lands, because they're City of Traders, this Fiery Confluence, if Maximum gets ran out next turn, it's a very, very long way off. Not being able to play the second red source. We can float 2, and then, I mean, you'll have to sacrifice your city to cast your Fiery Confluence. And that'll leave you on basically 1 card in hand, which is the next draw step.
Yeah.
Or I guess I'll have 2 draw steps until then, so.
Fire the Confluence is not coming down anytime soon. Unless he draws Mox, but even then you don't want to be... Well, you may be wanting to. Because, no, you don't want to pitch your Magus of the Moon here for a Mox. That's just not smart.
Yeah, Chromox is dead. We'll basically see a City of Traders next turn, probably into Magus the Moon, and then float mana on the turn, play your...
Yeah. It's City of Traders here.
Ancient Tomb, decent mana source here, although with the Delver breathing down, could deal some damage that Fink definitely doesn't want to have to use.
Yeah. So, Ancient Tomb coming down, good draw from him. He's going to play a Magus of the Moon. Question here is the CFT. So CFT is, I think, going to let it resolve. And then either bolt or dismember. I think the correct play here is to just bolt. Yep. Oh, no. He's going for dismember. Interesting play. I think I would have bolted in his situation to save the life total because the burn is going to be very relevant later on. Especially if Fink gets down a Ensnaring Bridge.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if Ensnaring Bridge resolves, the game's over almost immediately. Unless Fink is down to a low enough life total that Lightning Bolts will get the job done.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting decision point. You can run out the Nimble Mongoose, try and shorten the clock, or predict a Confluence, which would put on its best Pyroclasm impression.
Yep. I mean, I think the play here is to just run out the Mongoose and daze the Fiery Confluence when it comes down.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, it really depends on how Fink decides to play it out. So if he goes for the Confluence here, he gets dazed. I mean, the game has got to be close to over, unless another Confluence ripped off the top with City of Traders to pay.
Yep.
If he decides to slow roll this Confluence, just play out a Mountain Pass, take a couple beats.
Nah, he's just trying to.
It's not the way we're doing it, I guess.
He's just trying to get these threats off the
A little
board.
suspect against a quad daze, Spell Pierce ×2 deck, but
he's just trying to get these threats off the board. And it's not gonna happen.
There's no real particular reason to run it out right now, I don't think. You can even pay for Spell Pierce with City of Traders next turn.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
Yep, Spell Pierce off the top.
Only 4 cards in the yard, so no threshold yet.
Nope. And that's a Chandra Torch of Defiance off the top.
We'll see if the city comes down in anticipation of a Spell Pierce effect.
If I was in Fink's shoes...
want to lose the Spell Pierce and just plays the Mountain because he doesn't want to lose the 3rd red source. The game is certainly over.
Yeah.
And the game's effectively over anyways with Lightning Bolt in hand.
Oh, yeah. Plays out the city.
Sure. He's going to have to pay 2 to tax the Spell Pierce. He'll go down to 4. He'll shoot the Delver. He'll attack for 1, take him down to 3, and then lightning bolt in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a great hand from Sock. Really lined up well with Fink's draw and kind of stole a close to unwinnable game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just a lot of interaction. Double force is really what made that hand good, and the days as well. Just had answers to every single one of his threats and plays. Here comes the lightning bolt.
A little bit of a slow roll here. I mean, there's not really anything that Fink could have. Probably just showing lightning bolt. Yeah, I mean, it's good enough.
Good enough.
Super important game to win for Sock. Having a better game post board, getting one of these pre board games gives a little bit of breathing room.
For sure, for sure. So we're gonna move on to game 2 here of our Legacy Finals. For those of you who don't know how our top 8 matches work, the top 8 matches are all best of 5. So this game is going to be this next game is going to be pre-board. We're not going to go into sideboarding at all. We'll get started on sideboarding though at the end of this game, and we'll go over the sideboards, what we as commentators think they might bring in, as well as what they might take out, and then we'll get what they'll actually bring in and out in a couple minutes afterwards. So think opting to be on the play here. And here, this is a hand. So on the play, so you just, for Fink, you just go throw out a Trinisphere and make your opponent's stuff cost a buttload more.
Yeah, this is one of those hands that on the draw would be miserable against these dazes. But on the play, this is a pretty great hand. It's going to pretty much lock Sock out of the game for 3 turns at least.
Oh yeah, and by that point, Fink should be able to find another lock piece or 2 so that he can go ahead and just start going ham.
He's going to be able to just he can even run out the Ancient Tomb, exile a guide for Trinisphere. Yeah, Sock knows that he needs a Force of Will.
So he takes a mulligan, doesn't find anything. Takes another mulligan.
This Wasteland actually isn't terrible. Being able to hit this, he doesn't realize it from the context of Fink's hand, obviously, but being able to take out this Ancient Tomb will stall out the game at least for a little while.
Yeah. So Fink gonna go here, being a mono red prison player myself, going to go Ancient Tomb, Pitch Spirit Guide, cast Trinisphere. And thus the first black piece is down.
Would have been a pretty sick spell piercer days, but
Oh yeah,
sometimes drawing this land is actually pretty solid. The Wasteland here would stall out the game at least for a while, depending on how Fink draws.
Yeah.
But can't really know that play heads up, not understanding what's in the hand.
Oh yeah.
I would not honestly be surprised to see a hard cast Simian Spirit Guide this next turn for Fink to just start beating down.
Yeah, I could see that, or I could just see him pitch it for Confluence and burn for 6. Yeah, I can see that happening as well. I've cast my fair share of I've hard casted my fair share of Simian Spirit Guides. So yeah, here it comes down. He's just gonna pass. Daze is right now ineffective against the Spirit Guide. And that Dismember is also ineffective because Trinisphere. Trinisphere is an unfair magic card. Just making your opponent's stuff cost so much more in formats like Legacy and Vintage. It's just a beating. So CFT gonna hit that Ancient Tomb out, making all of Fink's 4-drops that are in his hand uncastable for the time being.
Do we know how Trinisphere and Phyrexian mana interact? Dismember you should be able to cast for 1 mana and 4 life, correct?
Let us check.
Because you're paying the mana cost? I'm not actually sure.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. I mean, I feel like you should probably, you're paying mana costs and it costs 3. So.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'm not going to check in the judge chat because players maybe want to think maybe in there in it. And it's City of Traders off the tops means Fink is just going to start.
Game's close to over.
Fink's just going to start hitting off these fiery confluences one after another. And that's the thing with these fiery confluences. Once they start coming, they can't be stopped.
Yeah, just the confluence alone represent 18 damage, and Chandra is pretty hard to deal with, yeah.
So, we're moving on to game 3. And with Fink, both players tied 1-1. So, we're going to start by looking at Mr. Fink's deck here. He will be on the draw. He has in his sideboard 2 red elemental blasts, 2 dampening spheres, 2 sorcerer spyglass, 1 gear per Aether Grid, 3 sulfur elementals, my bad, 1 Cough the Hammer, and 3 Wayline of the Voids. So I believe he's going to bring in the dampening spheres here, just to help in the slowing down of CFT. I don't know what else he brings in here, if anything at all.
The red elemental blasts.
Yeah, that will actually make sense to help with a possible counter war coming in. Taking out.
Are you saying from Fink's side?
Taking out. What do you think he would take out here in this circumstance?
Oh, we're talking about for Sock. Oh yeah, the Pyre Blast definitely not coming in.
We're talking about Fink
against. Right now. Yeah, definitely bringing in the red elemental blasts. The Koth is like arguably better than a Karn if you're on the Trinisphere Ensnaring Bridge plan. Just lock your opponent out and then win via Koth with the ultimate.
Yeah.
So I could see like -1 Koth or -1 Pia and Kieran, both 4-drops that kind of accomplish the same task. Koth being better under an Ensnaring Bridge. And then probably cutting another Pia and maybe Legion War Boss or something for a maybe both Legion War Boss here gets bolted, gets abraded, and is definitely not probably the path to victory for Fink in any of these post-board games. So I could just see taking -3 Legion War Boss, +2 red elemental blast, +1 Koth, and calling it a day.
Okay. Looking at CFT's list here, we got 2 Flusterstorms, 2 Forked Bolt, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Training Nemesises, 4 Abrades, and 3 red elemental blast. I see the Abrades coming in here, and I don't know what else. I think that's all you want here, to be honest.
I think True Name is actually pretty good. It's a threat that sticks. And well, I guess it just gets well, no, it can't. It won't die to Fiery Confluence. So
yeah,
I think True Name Nemesis is probably a pretty sticky threat that you would want, maybe over like a Nimble Mongoose. A Braid obviously coming in, it can cast through any kind of the moon effects. Flusterstorm is fine as just like a Force Spike. Turns 1 and 2, especially if you're on the play. I could see taking them out on the draw. Maybe bringing them on the play just as like a Force Spike effect.
Yeah. So we did get
Oh, it's
The
instant or sorcery anyway, so never mind. Yeah, Flusterstorm definitely not coming in. Just the braids and the True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, -4 stifles, +2 dismembers, and +4 braids, +2 true name nemesis. So I see cutting Dismember here. Dismember not that good into this matchup. It maybe will be able to deal with a Simian Spirit Guide or a Legion War Boss if those are still in post board, or a Magus of the Moon. But it's you're paying for life for it, which you don't want to do against a deck that's looking to burn you out. And that's
Yeah,
what
you
this.
need a ton of life for an effect you're already bringing 4 more of. Plus, you have the lightning bolts, so I feel
Yeah,
like that's a. I mean, we could even see a game where young Pyromancer, even under a Blood Moon, can generate a bunch.
yeah, for sure. So we're gonna take a look back over here at this game. Looks like Fink has brought in 3 cards and sided out 3 cards. So we're gonna see what he has done. So, from what he said, I believe he brought in the Red Elemental Blast and the Cough, and trimmed down on a couple Magus of the Moon plus Pia and Kieran. So that is what I believe he did. I mean, seems fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Legion Warboss can end the game kind of quickly, but yeah, that's fine. I guess Magus is
Oh. Alright, looking at this hand from Fink, this is a Snap Mulligan, if I've ever seen one. Because that hand has 0 lock pieces and all mana. This hand, slightly better. I think on the draw, I still mulligan this, though. Yeah, he's going to mulligan. And this hand, a little more acceptable.
It's the turn 1 card you're talking about.
Yeah, no, yep, this is a turn 1 card. I don't think he'll go for it, depending on what's on top. But he might. Who knows? I don't think turn 1 card's a good idea here. Just know that.
Interestingly, Soxy and he's gonna. It would be essentially dead to a Blood Moon,
Yeah,
only having spell sneer
most
for like
definitely.
a chalice.
Yeah. So we're gonna get started here.
It's an interesting choice here. It's most like the safest just to leave up a land plus spell sneer, but interestingly, you can ponder because you have this Abrade in hand to answer chalice on 1. You could ponder looking for like a force or a daze effect if you were so inclined.
Yeah. He's gonna fetch here, go find. CFT is gonna find a tropical island here. And lead off with a ponder.
Sure. Yep. So here he's just saying, hey, if you have a chalice, no big deal. I've got the Abrade as an answer. We're going to look for a daze or a force in case there's any kind of early Blood Moon effects coming out.
Yeah. And looking at this hand, we know there is none of that, as far as we know. But Fink scry to the top, so who knows what's on top of that deck. Notably, if I was playing here, my play is Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, Exile the Spirit Guide. And there's a lock piece one of the lock pieces we were talking about. The Trinisphere, which is going to slow down the game dramatically. and that's going to be a turn 1 lock piece.
Here, Fink has an interesting decision. If he exiles the Confluence, he can pay for a daze. Yeah, that's what he's doing with the Simian Spirit Guide exile.
Yeah. Which is fine. A fine play and a fine choice nonetheless, holding up mana just in case. My thought is I always, unless I, like if I'm going in blind to a matchup, I will always pitch the Spirit Guide to the Chrome Mox because that means my mana stays and doesn't go away.
Because he drew that third land, it might be that we see a Wasteland here on the Ancient Tomb.
Yeah, Wasteland Ancient Tomb would be smart because then that Karn can't come down this turn, or any other card, like any other 4-drop win con in general, and now he's stuck on 2 mana. He can't do a Blood Moon, he can't do any of that sort. Excuse me. Drawing a mountain for turn and just passing. And there's an Abrade, which is going to deal with, hopefully, this Trinisphere. If it gets back around.
Just really needs to fade one more draw step.
That's fade.
Which he did. So
yeah, this one thing about Chromox that is very, very unfortunate is when you're in an explosive deck like this that's looking to just blow out their hand on turn 1 with Chromoxes, and you've mulliganed down to 5, you really don't get, if you draw another Chromox, you really aren't getting anything for it. It's kind of sort of like a land that's a dead card, especially when you need to cast it for 3 mana. So we're gonna see, I'm guessing the Volcanic Island come down here. So he doesn't have to fetch, and he's just gonna pass. Draws another Spirit Guide. So I think he's gonna go Spirit Guide, Karn. It's Karn.
This is having 3 mana up. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna pass. He's afraid of that daze.
So, and that Abrade's gonna hit the Trinisphere.
This turn's gonna be pretty great. We got 4 mana. We got a fetch land. We have 5 cards in the yard. So Monk's gonna be a 3/3. Well, that's even better.
Oh yeah, that just busts this hand wide open. So he's gonna go Young Pyro, fetch Young Pyro, and Ponder. Nope, he's gonna Brave. Ooh, all right, I like that. I would have probably casted the Young Pyromancer first to get the token, but he's
he might feel like because he pitched that initial Fiery Confluence, if there's another one in hand, so he's gonna run out the Mongoose,
and that Mongoose is going to be able to become 4/4.
That's a pretty decent draw. He's got to be worried about the days here, but doesn't really have a choice. So
nope, has to do something here. But I think this game's almost all locked up for CFT.
I mean, he's got a 3/3 Mongoose. Is going to be able to play Young Peasy. He's a little bit punished here for not getting the Ponder and the Pyromancer out with the token.
Yeah.
This
thinking about
Blood Moon is going to make the game difficult, however.
Yeah. But he's right now thinking about that daze, and he just passes.
Sometimes you put sometimes you put the fear in your opponent, and it pays off. So
We're gonna see a young Pyromancer come down, and then
Gonna see a 6 Ponder here.
that Ponder go up to 7. Get a token. And then we got that magical threshold number in the graveyard, meaning that Nimble Mongoose is a 3/3 with Shroud. And there's a Force of Will, so no matter what, that Blood Moon is not going to resolve.
Yeah, this game's over.
This game is set and match for Mr. CFT over here. So he's gonna mush in for 3 and pass the turn. And Fink draws that mountain, so he can cast Blood Moon and not get hit by Daze. But he's gonna get hit by Force of Will.
He could roll out this Blood Moon, and then Sock might daze it, and then he'll pay for it with Simian Spirit Guide, and then he'll have to force, leaving him empty-handed. All Fink would need from there is another mana source and a Fiery Confluence to wipe the board, and then we'd be back at parity.
Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna daze it. He's gonna... Oh, he just lets it go. He just lets it happen. And now...
Blood Moon here, I mean, you're locking him out, but he's already got a pretty big board presence, so I can see letting it go.
Yeah. Don't waste the extra mana if you don't need to. That's a motion for...
He probably knows that this is a Fiery Confluence or bust situation, and not knowing about the force, is probably just gonna... Sure, you can roll out Karn here and try and draw an extra card. Karn isn't going to really do anything in particular against this board, but get a little bit of extra value out of it.
This Karn's not resolving.
I don't really understand that play, but I mean, I guess.
I mean,
having lethal maybe 3, 4, 5,
Yeah,
6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's just lethal with the bolt especially.
Yep. So CFT is gonna take game 2. Any changes you think these players are gonna make to their sideboards?
Probably not. I mean, the decks have pretty simple sideboard strategies against each other, and it really just depends on your opening hand.
All right, looking at Fink's hand over here.
Awful.
Oh, looks like CFT might be making a sideboard change. We may be seeing a sideboard change from Fink. Not from Fink, from CFT. So what do you think he would bring in play versus draw scenario here?
I don't really see anything else.
I don't see anything either. Okay, so yeah, he's not doing anything. So, Fink has got a godly hand over here. He has a turn 1 Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which is pretty good. Sorry for you guys, I forgot to change the overlay over. But yeah, turn 1 Torch of Defiance.
So his hand is pretty interesting. Getting that True Name Nemesis down is going to take care of the Chandra over a couple turns. He's got a turn 1 Ponder or turn 1 Mongoose, which will also pressure the Chandra, or at least keep it at 4 loyalty.
Yeah. And he's not going for the turn 1 Chandra.
Well, he does have anything to exile with the Chromox.
Yeah. He has a red Elemental Blast.
Oh, it's a red Elemental Blast, not a City of Traders.
There's a City of Traders, a red Elemental Blast, a Simian Spirit Guide, and
yeah.
a Chandra.
I mean, he probably is trying to avoid the days, right?
Probably just trying to avoid Force of Will.
Yeah, I don't
Just
know. If you play Afraid of the Counters the entire time, I mean, you just give your opponent turns to cast spells and get stuff done.
yeah. Yeah, I would have just slammed down that turn one Chandra and started doing Chandra things. You can't be afraid of the counters forever.
Like here, I guess you're hoping to draw like a moon effect or a Trinisphere would probably be best, and then play Chandra.
Yeah.
But
There's a force.
sucks. Yeah.
Force is gonna just, and that's the thing. If you don't just slam it down, you're gonna get eaten by a force of will. And now he's gonna play around, and so now he's gonna play around days again. Hold back the Simian Spirit Guide. Pitch the red elemental blast, and he's that Chandra's just gonna eat a force of will. Force of will pitching True Name Nemesis here. And see where this goes. Days off the top for CFT. Probably just going to play Nimble Mongoose and pass.
Got 3 cards in yard. We're gonna have 6 total with all the fetch lands in hand.
Yeah.
So we're a few turns away from threshold.
Yep. And here we're going to see a Legion War Boss come down.
Getting a free token off this. It's not too bad. Probably gonna get it braided next turn.
Yeah. Which makes sense. Make a token. Token's going to punch in there. Boop. Down to 17. Second main, he's going to play the Simian Spirit Guide. And I think this is going to get dazed. No mana open. Nope. Does it pass? Does it resolve?
It's probably a save days here. I mean, he's got a City of Traders and an Ancient Tomb, 2 red sources.
Yeah, he's just going to daze it.
This is probably the last chance other than pitching for force, if you can draw a force.
The daze will even be remotely good. And he gets another card in his graveyard for the Mongoose. Up to 4. True Name Nemesis off the top.
That's a great draw.
Play the land. Fetch.
We're gonna probably get a Vault here and a braid away that Legion War Boss.
Yeah. 6 cards in the yard.
He can main phase fetch the second land if he wanted to get in for 3.
Yep.
What?
Alright, there's another Legion War Boss. So
You just choose not to play a land there? Or...
No, he
oh, he
played the
dazed,
land.
right?
Yeah, he had the daze. He had the bounce to the Tropical Island. So he replayed it. So Legion War Boss coming down. Gonna make another token. Swinging in for 2. And this is about to become a close to a stalemate for a little bit here, as a True Name Nemesis will come down, and that Wild Mongoose will be a 3/3. Fink taking it. He's gonna go down to 12. And we're gonna have a 3/3 Mongoose out. And now this True Name Nemesis is gonna come down, name Fink, and we're just gonna get this. It's gonna be able to block all of these creatures. For those of you who don't know what True Name Nemesis does, As protection from when it enters the battlefield, you choose a player. As protection from that chosen player, it can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage, or enchanted by anything controlled by that player. So basically, nothing Fink controls can affect it. Trinisphere off the top.
At this stage of the game is close to a blank. I can't like chain brainstorms into ponders and stuff like that, but
No.
can cast pretty much everything through it.
Yep. So Fink's gonna CFT is gonna block a token, go down to 11. Fink's gonna pass a turn. Untaps. Draw for turn, draws a Daze. This stage in the game, it's not really helpful anymore. Plays fetch land. The question is, does he motion for 6? If he swings in for 6 and Fink takes it, Fink's dead to double bolt. He's going to be taking 3 no matter what.
He's probably thinking here if he wants to swing in with 1.
Swinging in with both.
Oh, swing with both. All right.
Fink goes down to 6. Passes
Now
turn.
he's dead to a top deck bolt.
Simian Spirit Guide off the top. Goblin Legion Warboss making another token. And Fink's coming in with the squad. Not everyone. Waving back 1 token. CFT goes down to 6. Dead to a Fiery Confluence.
Fink's also dead to a lightning bolt here.
Yep. And what is the draw? The draw is in the Braid.
Let's see, what does that do to the math here?
I think it does nothing. You braid the spirit.
Basically, you can braid the war boss. You can attack with the nemesis to take him down to 3, which is a 1-turn clock, and you leave up a blocker for the spirit guide, and you take 4 next turn, going down to 2. That's probably the play, as you're already dead to a fiery confluence anyways.
Yep. And you're dead to Cough. You're dead to Chandra. You're dead to literally any of his damage dealers in his deck.
Correct, yeah. Now, interestingly, this Daze becomes live again once he gets reduced down enough if he somehow takes an extra damage. Well, I guess we're doing increments of 3 here, so it's not likely to matter. But he could turn off the Daze by making this Ancient Tomb not able to activate.
Yep. He may also be thinking whether or not to leave back both the True Name Nemesis and the Loud Mongoose to block.
Yeah, it just doesn't really get you anywhere. He's going to keep generating these tokens, and he's got enough now. Yeah.
Yep. So, going to bolt the War Boss. War Boss bites the dust.
He can also just attack with both, and Spirit Guide is priced into blocking anyways. Or the token can block, take him down to 1 either way.
Swinging in with True Name Nemesis. Goes down to 3. Untaps. Draws a Blood Moon.
That'll do it. That's it.
Yep. That's the game. And that will decide our match here. Just playing it out, seeing if See if T messes up anything in combat. Nope. Taking 4, going down to 2. Gonna pass the turn. See if T is going to untap. Draws a land. And swings in for lethal. He's gonna swing. Yep, here it is. The swing in for lethal with both creatures. And that's gonna do it here for our Legacy Finals. CFT Sock takes the match 3-1 over XAH Fink 6. He is your Legacy Season 7 champion. I'm going to see real quick if he's available for an interview. So, for a quick little interview afterwards. If not, reminder, Legacy League signups for Season 8 end this coming Monday, January 28th at 5 p.m. So, sign up if you wish. So, yep, we are going to get on in this call with CFD Sock for a quick interview. Maybe. All right.
That's all right. No chance for an interview. Just a quick recap of the match.
Yeah.
It's basically super dependent on force of will early on and being on the play, and you kind of like daze and spell pierce effect, and it's pretty much how it ends up playing out for Sock.
Yeah. Just a bunch of force of wills, knowing what to mulligan to, how to mulligan, being able to stop those early lock pieces, especially that game one. That game one was super important for him. Being able to stop that chalice on 1 on practically which would have been basically a lockout for him pre-board, just no matter what, because he's running over half his deck is CMC 1 cards. So force willing that early Chalice of the Void on 1, super important. So I believe that's all we have. Once again, reminder to sign up for our Legacy Season 8, which begins on Monday. Within the span of, I don't know, since the last stream, which was Sunday, I've changed over my decks again. So we'll see what I'm playing, but we are in the process of changing decks. You got an idea of what you're playing?
I ran Miracles through a Moto League and got crushed. Definitely lost time once, so I'm thinking might be playing something a little bit more proactive, maybe a Stoneblade or maybe even Death and Taxes. We'll see.
Spicy. I am in the process of probably either playing either a Maverick list or going back to my roots and playing a mono red version list. Or who knows, I may be back on Oops All Spells this season because that deck is super fun. So that's going to do it for us today. Again, reminder, Legacy Season 8 starts on January 28th, which is Monday. Signups end at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, I'm Diamond Commando. I was joined today by GFV. and we hope to see you guys again at our next stream. See ya!